All right, guys, we need to talk. We need to talk about what's happening at Sports Interactive. As you guys know, I've been upset about FM26 for about half a year now. I really had high hopes for this game, and it's done nothing but disappoint me. Even though we're about 6 months into the release, the list of reported bugs just keeps on growing. Now, normally I would say just to stop playing it, to play FM24 or something else instead, and wait and see if Sports Interactive, figures out what it's supposed to be doing. But I'll be honest with you, I'm worried. I'm really worried. I'm worried that this problem is so big that it may seriously threaten Sports Interactive as a company. Now, the early report is that FM26 sold millions of copies in its first week, and it attracted 85,000 players on Steam on day one, which is an all-time record for Sports Interactive. Part of this was likely due to the eager anticipation for a new game less than a year after the infamous cancellation of FM25. The advanced access thread reached 460 pages, and I will admit that I checked it every day hoping for the game to come out. And like many of you, I was really disappointed in the end product. I mean, I guess this is what you get when you get your hopes up, right? But the thing I want to emphasize here is that the huge magnitude of this disappointment, right, is more than I ever anticipated it would be. I'm not just talking about this game being less than what people expected. No, I'm talking about a significant portion of the player base simply abandoning the game altogether. If you check out the charts over on steamdb.info, you'll notice that FM26 has steadily lost players over time. This is even more obvious when you look at the numbers. As of the filming of this video in mid-April, the game is averaging about half the players that it started out with. And the game lost over 30% of its player base from its release in November to December, which is really significant. Now, I hate to really rub salt in the wound, but we do need to look at how this compares with earlier versions of Football Manager, and no, you will not like what you see. Football Manager 2024, which is in blue, actually added players about 2 months after its release and was steady at over 80,000 users per week on Steam for months. To give you a random example, 88 days after release, FM 2024 had almost double the number of average players that FM 26 had. And the crazy thing is that even older versions of Football Manager have outperformed FM26 in the first few months. Football Manager 2017 had a lower peak and started out low, but it also steadily added players over time instead of losing a bunch at once. If you look 91 days after launch, Football Manager 2017 had about 20,000 more players on average than FM26. And you will see the exact same trend if you look at Football Manager 2012, which is the oldest Football Manager game on the Steam DB charts. So in other words, this is a huge problem. People have been abandoning this franchise for months now, and they're abandoning it in droves. And it makes me wonder how many people are actually going to be willing to buy FM27 when or if it comes out. Unless, of course, Sports Interactive performs some sort of miracle that turns the franchise around amazingly. The thing is that the frustration has spilled over to the official message boards, and nobody's really done anything about this. It feels like every day there are threads asking if FM26 has finally become playable. And the really frightening part is when you have moderators saying that no, FM26 is still not enjoyable. Now, this brings up some obvious questions for all of us. In particular, what do we do when Football Manager just isn't fun anymore? And I'll tell you what, if you like content like this and the other content that I make that you won't see anywhere else, I recommend at least considering becoming a channel member. For only $5 a month, you can support my work here on YouTube. This will also give you access to new videos before they're officially released. I usually get these done like a week or so in advance. This also helps me be able to continue making high quality content for you guys. As an alternative, you can go over and check out my Patreon. I've got a bunch of extra stuff on there as well, including over 8 terabytes of classic sports broadcasts, and that is growing. Anyway, when it comes to figuring out what to do with Football Manager, the only real hope that we have is to rely on the community. So to be honest with you guys, I think the only thing that's really keeping FM26 from completely collapsing is the hard work that the community has been doing. Some of these creators have been fixing up Football Manager for years, doing the hard work that Sports Interactive refuses to do for whatever reason. And others, like the famous Bassy Boy, have basically turned FM26 from an utterly unplayable mess into a game that's at least nice to look at once in a while. Now, the thing you have to remember is that the amazing community is really the reason Football Manager became this popular in the first place. And this is one of those details that Sports Interactive has never really acknowledged and has never really paid any attention to. Believe it or not, it was really the coverage on YouTube surrounding Football Manager 2021 that got me really deep into the franchise. Deep in the heart of the pandemic, Football Manager felt like a breath of fresh air, a little bit of normalcy in a world that was increasingly becoming anything but normal. And, well, Sports Interactive really should worry if its biggest creators are continuing to show just what a mess FM26 is after all these months. So I started off watching a whole bunch of the same creators that are still around today, right? I remember tuning into like Omega Luke all the time thinking, oh, I want to find another Wonder Kid for my whatever team in whatever league I was playing in. And I can distinctly remember being so focused on this game that I would actually play it when I was in virtual meetings, like at work. So my boss once saw, my face change in the middle of a meeting and asked me what was wrong. I didn't really have the heart to tell her that we had just conceded an own goal. I simply can't imagine doing that with FM26. In fact, I don't think that I can keep FM26 running long enough to last an entire meeting without the game crashing. Now, the fact that someone like me was willing to play this game while I was supposed to be working remotely should tell you something about it. Despite all the attention Sports Interactive places on its 3D graphics engine, the truth is that most players, like me, aren't really all that interested in this. Believe it or not, the majority of Football Manager players would have been perfectly happy if the in-game view had remained something as simple as this. I don't know about you guys, but I seriously find it a lot easier to follow the action when I've got an excellent 2D view like this, not one of those fancy 3D views. You see, the problem that Sports Interactive has had for a long time is that management at SI doesn't understand what the attraction of Football Manager really is. This is not, an EA Sports style game where you want to have the best possible graphics and make everything really lifelike. Now, this is a game where you use your imagination. It's all about interaction with the artificial world that the game creates. Honestly, Sports Interactive's priorities need to be focused on the RPG elements of the game and not on the graphics. So think back on your favorite RPG. For example, mine is the old Famicom version of Dragon Quest IV. I've always loved this game, largely because it offers so much gameplay variety. While you've got your standard dungeon crawling, the game offers so much more. You get to play as a princess, desperate to escape the castle she's been imprisoned in and explore the real world. And you even get to play as a shop owner, where you basically stand there all day and wait for people to come in to sell you stuff. So games like that are all about drawing you into the world of the game. You are encouraged to forget about the reality around you and instead embrace the world that the game designers have created. That is precisely what Football Manager should be able to do on its own. But it fails. Of course it fails. Alright, here I am managing New York City FC. And here I am managing Harlem, an obscure English team. Here I am managing Rim Yong-soo, a North Korean team I'm betting you've never heard of. Seriously, no matter where I go in the world, it's always the same thing. The only difference between these clips are the skins that I was using. Everything else plays exactly the same. In other words, in Football Manager, you don't actually leave England and go manage in Somalia or in Thailand or in Bolivia. The leagues change, the player names change, but everything that you actually interact with in the game, the way that everything works, the way you talk to people, the sort of people around you, all of that's exactly the same. You're just like the princess in the castle in Chapter 2 of Dragon Quest IV. You're stuck within your four walls and there's no way to get out. Fortunately, there are ways you can leave your boring Football Manager world behind, though it takes some time and a lot of imagination. So for example, somebody over on FM Scout named Masker Igor created what I believe are the best geographic packs for FM24, and I'm planning on slowly working through all of these countries. Of course, the only way to really feel like you're managing in Africa is to immerse yourself in Africa, and that's going to take some time and a little bit of YouTube magic. Seriously though, there's a lot of potential here, even if it's going to take me a little while to get to it. And it's going to take a while. I've said this before, I'm not like the other channels, I don't go quite as fast when I go through a season, but we're going to get there eventually. There's more than enough to play with on FM24 to make me forget about all the ridiculousness that is FM26. And hey, maybe that's the best plan for you as well. Or you could just look into one of the older Football Manager games, some of which you can find for free on certain notorious sites. Personally, my depression and disappointment about the franchise after FM26 didn't really go away until I spent some time playing Football Manager 2006 again. There's a simple beauty about these older versions that keeps me coming back for more, even if the graphics are not all that spectacular. In fact, the biggest secret in the Football Manager community is that the oldest versions of the game are generally the best. It's just that nobody thinks of playing them. Anyway, that's probably the direction that this channel is going to head in unless something significantly changes. I'll likely wind up doing a bunch of FM24 projects in the near future, including the one I'm working on right now. If there is a Football Manager 27, I will probably wait to see how it is before I pre-order it or buy it or whatever. And I hate to tell you this, but I would not be surprised if the franchise wound up just dying off before long. That is how bad FM26 is. It's worse than you think. But hey, at least we have the old games.